Breaking news on Newsday TV, Suffolk County has declared a state of emergency in the wake of the severe storms. Let's listen in. County Executive Ed Romaine, he's giving an update.
Our long-time mill pond is gone. 6 houses along here are damaged. Their cesspools, personal belongings are now floating down this creek into the Sound. Our county departments, health, parks, public works have all been deployed. 150 students from Stony Brook University have been displaced from their dorm rooms, and we're working on getting some temporary housing for them. Our county parks and public works are working in Blydeburg Park, where the dam overflowed and is now flooding Jericho Turnpike. We have flooding if anyone came up Nichols Road, just north of the entrance to the university. That road is flooded out. 25A, flooded out. I just came back from Rocky Point. The tops of the roofs of the cars are all covered with mud. There was a huge mudslide that came down on many of the roads that lead to the Sound, including Hageman, Landing Road, and Friendship. So those are damaged. We are dealing with damage reports throughout this county. As a result of that, I am signing a declaration of emergency, which hopefully will get some aid to our local businesses and homeowners, and I'm signing it now to send a plea for help for the businesses and the communities and the homeowners that have been impacted by this storm. We just sign that right now. Now we have several other people here, but I will tell you one thing. As I look down and I look at all the cesspools that have flown and their mess flowing into the Sound, I think that's a very strong argument why Stony Brook needs sewers. And this is a ongoing struggle in Suffolk County, where more than 70% of this county is on cesspools and septics as opposed to sewers. Large areas like a Stony Brook should have sewers. But with us, we have several people here, and I'd be remiss if I did not mention, we have our supervisor, Dan Panico from the town of Brookhaven, our assemblyman, Ed Flood. We have Tay Lee from the governor's office. We also have legislator Rob Trotter, legislator Steve Engelbright, our FRES commissioner who's been here since early morning. He was the guy that woke me up at 5 o'clock this morning. Ed, you got to get down here. And that's Rudy Sunderman, our town highway superintendent, Dan LaSquadro, our town councilman, Jonathan Conright. And with that, I'm going to let the supervisor of the town of Brookhaven speak, and we have 2 or 3 other people that want to add to this. But clearly, our call now is to clean up this mess and rebuild this mill pond and get this community and all the communities that were impacted back to normal. And that's going to take some help from the state and federal government. And of course, the county stands ready to work with our towns and villages to do this. I spoke with the village of Head of the Harbor, the mayor before. He was here earlier this morning. We'll be speaking with all officials to coordinate our efforts and make sure that we get back to normal as quick as possible and clean up this mess. But this is going to take a lot of money, and hopefully we have some state and federal aid, and hopefully the governor is thinking about declaring a limited state of emergency for northern Suffolk County. And with that, our town supervisor, Dan Panico.
Well, thank you, Ed, and thank you all for attending. This is an environmental and economic disaster. This mill pond, the last time this occurred was over 100 years ago in 1910. Millions of gallons of water, turtles, fish, everything is downstream, along with the personal belongings of many of the houses that were flooded. This area, this road, Harbor Road, that was washed out is a catastrophe. Connects Brookhaven to Smithtown. It is a well-traveled road. It is a road and rehabilitation project that is going to cost upwards of $10 million that we need state and federal help to overcome. Across the town of Brookhaven, geographically bigger than Nassau County, the North Shore has been ravished. The entire North Shore, we're spending today with our building inspectors, going out also with our highway department. It's all hands on deck in Brookhaven town evaluating properties. The house that the county executive spoke about is a bed and breakfast, has been condemned by the town of Brookhaven. It is not safe. We have other homes that are falling into sinkholes. The message today is, number one, we're thankful that there was no loss of life. That's the most important thing. If you need help and you're from Brookhaven town, we encourage you to call 631-451-TOWN. Again, that's 631-451-TOWN. We want to take all of your information, decide if we can help you directly or pass you to the county. Whomever can get you help. The problems that we have here in Brookhaven are going to take a long time to overcome. This bridge going over to head of the harbor is not going to be fixed in any short order. There will need to be permits gotten, engineering, a major injection of funding. And this mill pond, I want to remind residents, it may be nice and we all may leave. This is not the pond to go and traverse later on during the day. We do not want to be back out here. No one wants to be back out here for an emergency situation trying to save people from this muck and mud. Refrain from your curiosity. Do not head out to Mill Pond. If you need help, we stand together in unison to help you who have been affected by this. I thank the county executive for his support. He's an able and willing partner. We're deeply appreciative, and I'm going to turn it over to New York State Assemblyman Ed Flood.
Good afternoon. This is a tragedy. Thankfully, as the supervisor just said, thankfully there was no loss of life. But again, we can't stress as much. Parents, please tell your children, make sure they're not curious coming down here, getting stuck. It is an attractive nuisance. I know there are lots of people that will be curious about it, but there hasn't been any loss of life. There have been no injuries, and we'd like to keep it that way. My office, as I'm here, my office is currently working or speaking with DOT, DEC, the governor's office, and the congressional office to arrange for the proper funding it's going to need to take this. But as the supervisor said, this isn't going to happen overnight. This is a long process. We just ask that everyone be safe and to use caution and be patient, because this will take a while to fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Appropriately named Assemblyman Flood. We have a representative from the governor's office. I'd like to call her up. She is here to show support. We are extremely appreciative of Governor Hochul and her commitment to Long Island.
Good morning. Thank you, County Executive and Supervisor Panico. My name is Talia Olaya from the Governor's Office. Our team has been in close communication with our agencies, including our New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services and New York State Department of Transportation. Our agencies, including our office, is in communication with the town of Brookhaven and the County Executive's Office. We will continue to work together as we continue assessing the damages caused by this storm. Thank you all.
Thank you. We certainly would entertain questions. We have our highway superintendent here. We have people from emergency management here. We have our fire marshal here. We have a whole host of people here, our public safety officers. And of course our local councilmen, our local county legislators. So if you have any questions,
somebody that represents the owner.
all right, and we have, of course, we cannot forget Gloria Rocchio from Ward Melville Heritage, which is a huge part.
No, we own this.
Right, a huge part of the Stony Brook community that owns this park
And the pond.
and the pond, and she is here, as all owners who have suffered damage know. This is a sad day for Suffolk, but a day where we grit our teeth and get ready to rebuild and clean up this mess and go forward. So with that, we'd be happy to take any questions you have.
What's the status of the damages of the mill right now?
The status of the damages from what we can estimate right now, and the one thing that we have, which will not be a surprise to the state, we have put drones up to document the before and after. We have drones that have documented the before, now they're documenting the after. We believe it's in excess of $25 million minimum, a minimum, between the cleanup that's required in Rocky Point, other parts of this county, Stony Brook. So we're thinking 25 million as a minimum, and we will document everything that we do and all the expenditures that will be made, because we will be seeking some hope of state or federal reimbursement, because this is a huge hit on local government, on the town and the county, and the villages along the North Shore. So we will be taking, over the next few days, a catalog of all the damages. We have our drones up. We're documenting all that damage.
The representative from the governor's office has News 12. Do you anticipate being able to send money for all of this cleanup? I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
We can only hope. We can only hope.
Or beg.
No, that's a creek that flowed here that was dammed that made this pond. So that stream will flow all the way into the Sound. But now it's clogged with personal effects, cesspool waste, dead fish, dead turtles, all the sadness that we see from a park that was years in the making. And you can talk. Gloria, do you want to talk about the park?
I'm short. To answer your question, this is spring-fed from the corner of Rhododendron Lane and Main Street. So it'll keep flowing, but nothing to the extent it was. In addition to that, we did have a structural engineer come already to check the gristmill, Stony Brook gristmill, 1751, and it is structurally sound. It's on the state and national register, and so that is important to remember as far as restoration is concerned, that everything should be in keeping. As Mr. Engelbright said, it's important to do that. You should also know that the mill was built in about 600 feet into the pond in 1699, and in 1750 the dam broke, and then once again in the 1800s, and the last time it broke was 1910. So this time we have to make sure that it's really good. Thank you.
Do you have your name, please, and your title?
Gloria Rocchio, Rocchio, and I'm president of the entity that owns the pond.
Ward Melville Heritage Association.
Yep. Organization.
And
there's a 2-acre upper pond that we also own. Thank you.
Anyone else? Have you guys reached out to the school districts? The school started in about 2 weeks. Bus routes, this, that, and the other. They're going to start their practice.
We haven't reached out to the schools yet. We want to do an assessment of the damages to the road, see how quickly the roads can be repaired. This road is not going to be repaired anytime soon. And then make them aware of that so that they reroute their bus routes. But that will probably come in the next few days. That's a lower priority. The top priority is to catalog the damage, see what's done, see how quickly we can get people in to fix the damage. This will not be fixed, as Supervisor Panico said, for many months. It's going to take some time. I'm gonna turn it over to the owner.
What's the body? What's the meaning? What's the meaning?
Right.
What it meant to the community.
Yes.
Just get close to the mic.
Right.
Meant a lot to the community. Avalon Park is on the other side. I don't know how they're going to get there now. People love to see that, and part of the pond that we own is in Avalon Park, so that is probably a mud puddle too.
Avalon Park is a nature preserve that's one of the best in the county, that's widely visited. I've got to tell you, this is a community that is in shock and despair that their landmark is so damaged by an unexpected storm. This storm was not predicted for northern Suffolk. This storm was over Connecticut and probably traveled south. When you get almost 10 inches of rain, that's a once in 100-year storm, which unfortunately seems to be coming more than I don't think we're going to have to wait another 100 years. But it tells you the impact that climate change is having to our weather and to some of the things, the natural disasters that happen.
To get back to your question too, this park here is also owned by our organization. People come here and we call it Tranquility Park. And it's very sad to see that. There are plaques in the park that talk about the people who lived in Stony Brook and other parts of Long Island. In fact, you can go on a QR code and learn about the people behind the plaques. So it's a very special place. I'm amazed that the park had no damage at all. But now we have to rebuild, and we will, with the help of the men and women that are standing behind me. Thank you.
I've tried to take a tour of most of the damage this morning. I was up early. I was over to Rocky Point. I went down to Hagerman Landing Road. All the tops of the cars had mud on it. The mudslide that came down Hagerman Landing Road was easily 7 to 9 feet. That left its mark on the trees, the houses right up to the windows. We had to rescue someone down there from their rooftops. So yes, we've had extensive damage, particularly on the road endings in Rocky Point. As you know, Rocky Point and Sound Beach, a lot of hills, and a lot of it runs down to the Sound. It is where all the water traveled and all the mud. We had several of our catchment basins overflow. We had all types of mud on the roads all over the northern part of Rocky Point and Sound Beach. So yeah, we have extensive damage that we will be cleaning up for the next couple days. And the guy that's going to talk to that is our Highway Superintendent, Dan LaSquadro.
Thank you. Yes, as the county executive rightfully pointed out, the reason why the North Shore was impacted to a greater degree is because of the topography. The water picks up velocity as it travels down into these natural drainage points. Many of these areas were built a very long time ago. They just have catch basins. They do not have sumps or recharge basins, as we call them. Even recharge basins optimally can store 8 inches of water. A catch basin, no more than 2 to 3 inches. This exceeded even the capacity of a modern sump in a modern development. So we saw our systems completely overwhelmed by this volume of water in this short a period of time. We are still, as everyone has been pointing out, in the assessment phase. We have been documenting and finding additional damage all morning. That is going to continue throughout the day and probably for days to come. We will get into the engineering and estimating phase. We have, unfortunately, been through this process with FEMA and the state before, even back to the recovery from Sandy and Isaias. So we are familiar with the process. We will go through that. We will do our best to secure funding from the higher levels of government to ease the burden on our local taxpayers, because as the county executive and the supervisor rightly pointed out, many of these projects are beyond our ability to fund on a local level. So that assistance is necessary and hopefully forthcoming very shortly. This process will take a great deal of time. What is behind us here will require permitting not only from the DEC, but from the EPA and from the Army Corps of Engineers as well. You then have the engineering and construction phase, so this is going to be a prolonged process. We will work our way through each of these individual spots diligently to make sure that we are receiving the most aid from every level of government that we can, and that we get our infrastructure back to operating condition, and hopefully we can get money for mitigation, as Gloria said, to make sure that we build back better and stronger, so that we are prepared against the next of these eventualities. Because in my 11 years as highway superintendent, unfortunately, I've had to deal with 3 rain events in excess of 8 inches in 24 hours. So we can say this is a 100-year or 1,000-year rain event. Unfortunately, I've had to deal with 3 of them in a little over a decade. So when we are doing the engineering and design for this, we are preparing for these type of storms. So that's the position we find ourselves in, and we're going to continue to work as quickly as possible to get everyone back to normal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you're just joining us now, Suffolk County has declared a state of emergency after yesterday's storms. Here's a map of the location where the press conference took place. Here you'll find extensive damage. County Executive Ed Romaine just gave an update. The latest damage report, a minimum of $25 million. That's a big loss there. Romaine is asking for state and federal help with businesses and homeowners impacted by the severe weather in northern Suffolk County. Now, the county hasn't seen anything like this since 1910, so put that in perspective. For the latest on the storm's aftermath, head to Newsday.com.